Hey, Tony.
Hello, Daniel.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Tony and I, we're just going to have a conversation today. And today we're going to talk about, one of the things is being a person of color in Western culture. One of the things is, I know I want to touch on being an Asian man or um, a young Asian man in Western culture and the challenges that also is involved with that as well. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you want to start?
I'll start with just I know we're doing this video, and people might think we're bringing the focus away from the recent injustice enraging the black community with George Floyd,
Hmm.
but that doesn't mean that we can just shove the other issues around racism with other races like ours
Yeah.
under the rug,
Hmm.
just because our issues are less mentioned on media and less exposed and less heard of.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of this call.
Hmm.
So the first point is how, for the Asian community, the tendency is to just follow and obey when we get we get our boundaries crossed and we get physically abused or verbally abused, and we say nothing or do nothing. S- Um, I believe that's like tied from us just being our programming from not just our generation, but from our parents' generation and their parents for for so many years, how the communism structure of the government, the oppression and suppression of the people, and then I feel like the parents carry that over from their grandparents, and then I feel that I get treated by the oppression whenever I try to speak up, and I know I'm bringing this huge subject of like politics and like sort of mashing it into the family dynamics, but that's actually, it's like just mirrored. I feel like everything is relationship, and how the government treats their people that's how their people will treat their kids, and they will just get passed down from generations to generations. So how we were treated as childs, the whenever from my experience, whenever I try to speak up and somehow that sort of challenged my father, he would just, he would react with so much violence and oppression that it happened so many times that now I sort of just keep quiet when I get crossed or offended or my boundaries, you know, stepped my toes being stepped on. I just sort of just be passive and not feel safe to speak up. And that's that's like what I've figured and what I've realized throughout these years of like my path of digging deeper into these issues, like noticing how a lot of us Asian men, we don't tend to step into a power of, and we suppress a lot of the masculine attributes, which are more forward moving, having boundaries and protecting those boundaries when violated, also being authentic and voicing our true opinions and feelings, going after our passions even, because so many of us have this pressure from our parents to go with this narrow arbitrary path to success even, and we sort of just follow that, and that's the issues I've realized and observed from, even not just me, but from like other friends, Asian friends. So like, do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the challenges is it's so prevalent, it's just normalized. We're from
Yeah.
a group of people, and the biggest group of people on Earth. We're like, a fifth of the population, Chinese people.
Hmm.
The bulk of them, yeah, in mainland China, but we're all over the world, and it's so prevalent this normalization of listen to authority. I
Yeah.
recognize, as I witness other cultures, how other cultures have religions and faith and spirituality in different ways. When I look at Asians and Chinese peoples, I know I'm from mainland China, right? I mean, and I realize our religion, being Chinese, is authority is God. You know, that's our religion, to obey your
Yeah.
authority figure. Therefore, your government, your parent.
Yeah.
And as you said, yeah, that trauma, that oppression from the Cultural Revolution, especially intense since then. But before that, literally thousands of years of imperialism, where it's also a system where there's one ruler and everyone else is a servant, seemingly. And that has carried on generation after generation. And that's the pattern we carry in our families. And how, when especially realizing us humans, and the thing is, it's about learning to honor our emotions. But we come from a culture, from a group, from an upbringing that totally denied our emotions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pretty much especially the bad ones, but even the good ones. Like, we can't get too high, can't get too crazy or too joyful, and you certainly can't get angry. You certainly can't talk back. You certainly can't cry and ask for the things you want, or else you'll be punished, reprimanded, beaten,
Hmm.
right? And from then on, because we are experiencing that in infancy, oftentimes in our mother's womb, then as we grow up, so many of us that look like you and I, Asian looking, was never emotionally supported in a healthy way, in a loving way, in a compassionate way. Therefore, we never knew how to emotionally support ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
So, and it's extremely difficult when you don't know how to be emotionally available as a human being. When you're a part of a group that most people do not know how to be emotionally available. Therefore, we don't know how to be authentic. We have no idea how to be vulnerable with each other. And that's where power comes from. You know, now we're really learning, and from people like Brene Brown and all the people, mostly it's been white people that I've been learning a lot of this from, because we do grow up in Western culture, and it is the ruling class. But now learning about vulnerability and what leadership is, what authenticity, the power of authenticity. You and I were beginning to recognize the work that's needed for us, for you, for me, to actually step into our powers. And that
Yeah.
particular dynamic you spoke about, being an Asian male and in Western society and not being able to own our masculinity, our masculine powers, and have the balance. It is so true. That's something I've become more and more aware of over the last 10 years. And it's challenging to realize how prevalent that dynamic is as well. And it's so obvious thinking about the culture that we grow up through. I mean, most of us kids, or like millennials or Generation Z, grow up with pop culture, white pop culture mostly, especially we grew up in the West, and realizing that we've rarely ever seen Asian men, just Asian people in general, portrayed in a powerful way, in a way
Oh,
that's
yeah.
equal to other colors and races.
Yeah.
It's like that is so challenging. I mean, back in the 80s and the 90s, the only examples in popular culture was these nerdy kind of Asians who just like was picked on, or maybe these monks or kung fu masters. I mean,
Yeah. Those
that
are the only
that's
stereotypes
it.
for us
Yeah.
in in media. The Hollywood movies. Yeah, we were always portrayed as like not you know not the main character of the story. I mean, we're just on the side being this nerd, or being this kung fu master, whipping moves out.
And I realized even more prevalent, us as the bad guys, as the lowly
Oh
gangsters.
yeah, the
That is even
gangsters.
way more prevalent, in cop shows and gangster shows, where all the Asian gangsters,
Yep.
these
John Wick 3.
evil looking, yeah, exactly, these evil looking Asian dudes that just like and that it
Yeah.
seeps It's like, and it seeps into everyone's subconscious, unconscious, and all the conscious layers.
Just reinforcing the stereotypes,
Yeah.
like, which is not fully true at all.
Yeah. So we're people that come from a culture that has highly oppressed its people, the masses, for literally generation upon generation, thousands of years. And for those of us that are able to break free and come out of that energy, of that crab bucket, in the West, there's all these other challenges with trying to find our place, to feel some sort of equality, to feel some sort of the same ability to enjoy the fullness of life that other people enjoy. Now, of course, every single group has its challenging dynamics, absolutely. But Asians is just a particularly unique, dense dynamic in that there's just so many of us, and it's just so prevalent, and it's become normalized how much we oppress ourselves, and how much we
Yes,
police
oppressing
each other,
ourselves a lot.
to police each other, to make sure we're acting like each other. And boy, the judgment of each other as an Asian person, as a Chinese person, it is for me, it is cruel, it is violent, it is hurtful, it is hateful. Because that's what we have. That's the only tool we're given to control ourselves and each other. Judgment, shame,
Yeah,
guilt, gossip.
comparison.
Boy, yeah. Boy, do Chinese people love comparing each other. Do they love talking shit about each other? Do they love judging each other and
Yeah,
others? So you take that, and we witnessed our parents and our culture doing that. And how do you expect us to be with our friends, to know how to be compassionate, genuine, authentic, vulnerable, powerful individuals when we live in a culture that gives us no space? Asian men are the most emasculated group in Western culture. Yes, I do realize things are changing. Yes, Asian men do get fetishized now too, but it's been a long journey, and it's still so prevalent, the inequality. Because we're the group that just keeps our mouths shut, and the white man knows this. Because we do our work, we make sure we work 10 times harder in order to get to the same opportunities, to get to the same kind of schools and positions. And yes, we're given the jobs because the white man knows we'll do the job. We won't disobey. We won't challenge. We won't say anything.
yeah.
And if we do, yeah, off we go. Next. So, and because there's so many of us. And in the countries that we're from, that energy, that pattern is so damaging to people because of just how many of us there are. And the system have built itself, government and corporations and the rich have built itself upon the masses. And that's only going to spread if we don't start speaking up, if we don't start helping our brothers and sisters, not just of our color, but of all colors, to realize any of us groups that's not free, well, none of us are free. We're all hurting. And that's why now is the time that we start speaking up, especially inspired by the power of the Black people and the support they are gaining from all people. We need now to really, because for me, in order for me to become a person that's capable of supporting the Black movement, I must be free myself. I must be able to support my own people in order to be able to support other groups. So
Yeah.
this is part of these happenings, these seeds that we want to start planting more and more.
We're done just pleasing every other race and just people pleasing in general. Like, that's why we feel like, to begin with, in the beginning, like we weren't even comfortable with doing this video because you know like
Yeah,
the Black community, they always have their community, backing up each other,
yeah,
supporting each other with
my goodness.
protests, and they're they actually protect their own rights and boundaries.
Yeah.
Whereas, so the strength absolutely comes from community. Like the sticks analogy, a
Mm,
bundle of sticks is harder to break with just than just one stick.
Yeah, I love that
So
story. Yeah,
that's what we lack in Asian communities,
big
the
time,
lack of community actually.
big time.
That's why we're doing this, and to spread awareness and bringing those people who are willing to like not fight but at least protect our boundaries and rights, and step into that masculine energy and not just get stepped on all the time, and not we're not the weak ones anymore. But until we heal the wounds that made us more feminine to begin with. So like we have to step into our own power from healing, and then to bring all those people who have heal those wounds together to form this community, to like speak up, but as a group, not just individuals.
Hmm. Yeah, that's subservient energy, you know? It's like, yeah, I mean, one of the things is one of the things about being Asian is there is more availability to, well, to develop and be the feminine qualities, because we all have both. And it's about finding a powerful balance depending on
Yeah,
for each individual. But because we haven't developed the masculine side, or that the ones that do play in that is very egoic and very shadow masculine. Um, it's now really turned, and because that's the challenging thing for me, especially, you've been doing consciousness work, you've been exploring spirituality, self-growth, learning to really be there for yourself and take care of your energy. Because of the conditioning for so many Asians and Asian families, like, basically it's like, why would you put energy or money towards something seemingly so extracurricular or so outside of logical thinking?
yeah,
Or what do you mean you need to get better grades so you can get another diploma, so you can get a raise? That's like, so many people don't see the value of taking some time, taking some of their resources, some of their energy, and investing in something, in themselves, in their own connection with themselves, into their opening their minds, into um, deepening, like learning about compassion, learning about love, learning about how to actually take care of their physical bodies. I see that as such a barrier, because there's like, it's still so common and the mass thinking for the Asians to like hold on to the mainstream,
very
you know,
practical.
very much so, very logical, practical. If like everyone else in your life is not saying it's true, then most likely you don't dare choose it or explore it.
But then you create this mass of soulless, successful people that aren't really fulfilled because they never looked in and addressed their own feelings. Even they suppressed it. They don't express their own feelings. They aren't comfortable with vulnerability.
Yeah.
It takes them courage to just melt down their own barriers and be who they really are. So like I don't see that as success, but they have the material wealth. But a lot of them, like CEOs of like some multi-million companies, when I do interviews with them, their soul is like not fulfilled at all.
Mm.
Because and it's not just emotions, it's like just troubles with romantic relationships,
Yep.
which honestly brings back to issues from childhood again with their
Yeah.
own mother.
Hmm.
So like I don't like this narrow arbitrary path to success that everybody follows.
Yeah.
I mean, if they keep doing that, there'll just be more competition
Yeah.
in like those limited fields of lawyer, engineer, and doctor, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like nobody nobody are looking within, they're all seeking outward.
Hmm.
But it's just this ongoing path to feel temporarily sedated, not even happy, just sedated and feel secure with like the more money you make, the more success you have.
Yeah.
But even when they start getting married, their relationships are horrible because there isn't that emotional support they never really received that from their parents, so they carry that over to their romantic relationships with marriages, and there is no really love even.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, especially as I realized, as I talked to people and started getting inside information on people who are wealthy, or I used to think, oh, if I started making more money, then I can actually be happy. Now, but when I started making a lot of money in my mid-20s, it didn't really improve my happiness level that much. It was the self-growth and the spirituality I was learning that was actually helping me to gain more fulfillment and contentment in my life. But I still thought I was still working on myself, frankly, throughout my 20s, so I can be a normal Asian, right? And start to go and earn more money, and thinking that would mean happiness. But I've really found out that that's not the case. It's this illusion that I think we all have, that if someone's driving a nice car and they're wearing fancy clothes and they have their all hair and all slicked and they're looking fancy, we think they're fulfilled. You know, we think they're happy and we think they live a luxurious life. But now it's understanding, just because when this person works on so much to present themselves in a certain way, to build their life in a certain way, most likely that person has not given themselves the time to actually work on the inner environment, the inner
Yeah,
relationship,
yeah,
the inner cultivations, and therefore it's empty inside. And now so many rich people around the world of all colors and creeds example this for us, right? So
yeah,
now it's just being willing to actually learn from other people, learn from our world, learn from all the information, all the realizations, and all the truth that's becoming come out now, right? How much the people in power have been polluted, have been contorted and addicted and changed by that power to become addicted to only increase that. And they've even sold us all that lie of, this is what it is: make more money, fill your ego, you know, and like and prove that you're better than others and step on others, and then you'll reach the mountaintop. But that is exactly what causes people the pain, when they follow the mandate to consume, to produce, to follow in like this destructive path of consumption, of unconscious, mindless consumption, while stepping on others, not knowing how to develop genuine, caring relationships.
yeah.
So it's so clear. We can easily learn from everyone in our lives and everyone we see through TV and through the screens. Yeah, it's getting pretty clear now. So now it's for us, because we've never had a voice, to now start speaking up. And for an Asian, you know,